Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast. I am Max Bretos, as always, joined by Steve Beitashour. Beta, another good week. 2 victories for LAFC. This is just let the good times roll again. And an exhausting week. They have a game this weekend, but at least they get to unwind, maybe have a couple days off along the way. Good times for the Black and Gold.
Good times. Finally, this midweek game is gone. So now just the game on the weekend. It's weird. They're probably like, man, it's been so long since our last game.
Yeah, maybe they just keep them coming, you know?
Keep it coming. They're on a good roll. They got that trophy that we kept talking about. The mood is good right now if you're an LAFC player, staff, or fan. It's good mood.
2 big wins over the week. In the midweek, seems like an eternity ago, home win, clean sheet against St. Louis City. Then they went on the road and did the Missouri/Kansas double, beating SKC. Another clean sheet. So defensively solid, which is what you want to be, certainly with MLS Cup playoffs rolling around. You also want to be in form, and you're seeing a lot of teams right now hitting a wall, and we will talk about that because that is the opponent that LAFC faces next, one of your former teams, the Vancouver Whitecaps. We will be joined later on the program by one of the new faces of LAFC, Marlon Santos, the Brazilian defender, got to make his debut. He's actually logged minutes in both games. We'll talk about him, what he's all about, and his excitement about joining this new club. And he's already got a trophy, for crying out loud. You know, he's already been part of US Open Cup. That's the best way to start with a new team. Or do you want to ease into that?
Yeah, ease into that.
Certainly, but hey, he's not complaining. So we will talk to Marlon Santos here in a little bit, but we'll talk about, I want to mention playing well this time of year, because I'm looking at the West, and right now LAFC has a 4-game winning streak. You look at the West, Galaxy are playing well. LAFC are playing well. Seattle are playing well. That's the top 3. After that, RSL sputtering. Vancouver sputtering. Colorado, Houston heading in the wrong direction. How important is it at this stretch? Because some people say maybe you flick the switch in the playoffs, but playing well now, does that give you a level of comfort with the important postseason looming?
For sure. It gives you a level of comfort, of confidence. I talked about it the entire season. Like, this is the most important stretch right here, going into the playoffs, being in good form, having this role that you're going into knowing that, yeah, we're in form. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's fit. Guys are 90 minutes fit. And right now, that's what LAFC has. You can't say that about everybody else. It's crazy to look at some of the other teams either LAFC has recently faced or is about to face, and they're struggling. Like, Whitecaps have had a pretty good season up to this point, but you look at the last 5, I think they've lost 3, drew 2. They haven't won 1 in the last 5 games. Salt Lake, I know, is another one of those top teams. They played the Earthquakes, and they beat the Earthquakes this past weekend. But up until that point, they were struggling the last 5 as well. These are kind of the top teams. So it's interesting to see that a lot of the teams in MLS are struggling right now getting into the playoffs. And this is what it's all about, right? We're talking about the playoffs. But LAFC is not one of those teams. They're flying right now. They are just on cloud 9, and they want to continue that going into the playoffs.
Love cloud 9. Great place to spend a couple hours or more if you can. Mm-hmm. And I'd be shocked if anyone other than the Galaxy, LAFC, or the Sounders comes out of the West. But then don't listen to me. I have jinxed many things in the past, including I'm going to take full responsibility for this. I think a couple weeks on the podcast, I had a chat with Denny Bouanga, and I said, "Have you missed a penalty?" And he said, "No, once in preseason and once long ago in the French league." He missed a penalty.
He jinxed it.
What?
He jinxed it.
Javi Martinez cleaned up and scored.
What a finish that was, by the way. That was difficult. It was bouncing on him. He hit it first time, upper 90. I don't know if he meant to do upper 90, but yeah, that was a good finish.
And how happy Bouanga was thrilled for him. He was like, he made the penalty. Just pure relief.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that reminded me. I was more pleased with Bouanga's reaction to that than the actual goal, because a lot of guys would be pissed off that they just missed the penalty, but it just shows the type of character you have in Bouanga. He's a team player. He wants the team to win. we just scored. Yeah, you should be happy. And I've seen guys on other teams are like, oh man, I missed a penalty. And he was pumped and he was celebrating with them. So that was good to see. Thanks for reminding me about that.
I have 100% seen that. And I don't want to mention any names, but once it was Cristiano Ronaldo. And he missed the penalty. He's like, oh, okay, good. But they get so caught up. I don't criticize anyone from that because you're missing penalties. And it's hard to like flip the switch if someone put it in. But he immediately flipped the switch. And that was good. Look, I like this win a lot too because Sporting Kansas City, there's something about playing spoiler. And this is a team they just lost to at the Open Cup. So I can imagine Peter Vermees in the locker room saying, do you remember what they did to you? Be angry. Let's get after them. And not only did they not have an answer, they were just, by the end of the game, a beaten team. How important, I mean, how much is there to that of playing a team like Sporting who are out of it, who have a bone to pick, and then you just flatten them?
Yes and no. What are they going to do? They're already out of the playoffs. Their only game that they were playing for was a few days before in the Open Cup Championship against LAFC. That was it. That was going to save their season, and they lost it. They're defeated. It doesn't matter what you tell those guys. You know, maybe if it's a close game, they're in it to the end, they'll keep fighting. But once that first goal for LAFC comes along, forget about it. They're done. They're ready for the ref to blow the whistle, send us home, let us go hang out at home with our families, relax. They're all thinking about wherever they're going in the off season for a little break. Yeah, they checked out. So unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business, right? That's nothing that they should be proud of, but that's just human nature for you.
Well, I think you're right. They did look like they were checked out, and LAFC took advantage of that completely, thoroughly beating Sporting Kansas City, winning away from home. Very difficult. LAFC now back-to-back away wins with one more looming, which we'll preview here in a moment. I did want to showcase the Aaron Long GOLAZO, who we know he's played different positions, and he's moved from midfield, and he's played. I mean, growing up, he played so many, and I guess he was up for the set piece. He hit the ball out, and instead of moving back, he anticipated something was brewing, recycled his run, and then finished. You know, there's comparing it to Carlos Vela, and I go, well, Carlos Vela's left-footed, but I remembered many times where Carlos was in a situation like that, and that's how he finishes, from post to post into it. It was a very nice goal, and Aaron Long made MLS Match Day of the Week. Another clean sheet. He's the defensive leader, but you put that on there, and you just look at Aaron Long's season, and then to me, it's definitely under consideration for best 11. I don't know if he gets best 11, but he is certainly under consideration.
He's definitely under consideration. As a defender, former MLS defender, I loved when we got clean sheets. All right, that was always priority one. But anytime you can contribute, because we know all the analysts and everybody watches, they love the goals, right? Whether it's assists or goals. So it was rewarding for him. Get your goal, enjoy it, celebrate. And it was a heck of a finish, man. That was not bad. He's had some good players in front of him that he's been able to watch. Perfect view every time. So he's like, let me try this out. And he did it to perfection. So that was awesome. I'm happy for him. He's a good person, great player, has had a phenomenal year this year. And so hopefully he does get, the reward at the end of the year. But if he doesn't, it's okay. Come back next year and get it.
Yeah, and he got that gnarly injury at the Open Cup. I mean, he put his body on the line. We didn't know how long he was going to be out. He returned here. And on his first game back, goal, player of the match day. He's a very special talent. He's perfect for this club. And just to accentuate how important that is. And the Open Cup, when he got injured, and I can't recall, but there's a couple guys getting injured, and you're like, we're going to win the trophy, but does the season unravel a little bit in the process to put everything in this where guys are getting injured, and maybe LAFC put so much in the Open Cup that they empty their tank for the stretch run. And here we are, the Open Cup 3 games ago, and 3 straight wins, including 2 away. It's to me, it's telling. And my previous question to you about winning games at this point of the season, LAFC had a bad patch in 2022, August, September. Last year, again, it was kind of dropping, and then they started getting results right about now, and they've done it again. So those two seasons ended well. MLS Cup, runner-up the following year. I truly believe that this team knows when to flip the switch.
It's funny. It doesn't feel like too long ago we were talking about, oh man, the results. It's because they played so many games in such short amount of time. So it was probably 10 days of maybe bad results. That's nothing on the grand scheme of the entire season. They had 10 days where they didn't get a couple of results. We're like, oh man, what's going on?
Black Gold Standard.
W trophy, W. You're like, yeah, there we go. Good times. So it happens all the time throughout the season. You have your wins in bunches, you have your losses in bunches. Right now, again, said it before, I'll say it again, it's the most important time heading into the playoffs, full confidence, full fitness. Guys are, you play the whole season for this moment, right? The playoffs. And so the guys are ready for playoffs to start today. They don't want to wait another week or two. They want it to start today.
And that's what I tell fans, man. This isn't the Premier League. MLS goes to the beat of a different drummer. Winning away is hard because you have to get on these planes. Ask Olivier Giroud. He had no idea. 4-hour flight, 3-hour flight, humidity, altitude. It's not like anywhere else. And we thought the Galaxy game was end of days and people were frustrated. You got to have faith in this team. And they have shown you time and time again what they're made of as they were able to get that result. So I'm really impressed and not surprised. I mean, we're all like, I was a little surprised. I was a little worried that things were coming undone. But give credit to Steve Cherundolo and his staff and this team for responding well. And now they have home field advantage.
Yep.
They get a top 4 spot. There's still a lot of incentive to finish as high as possible. They could still finish first. The Galaxy have 1 game remaining at Houston, which Houston has a lot on the line. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston wins that. Galaxy, not great away from home. Good, not great. LAFC, the issue here is at Vancouver, which we will preview here in a moment, and then a home game against San Jose on decision day. But home field advantage is a great target. LAFC finished 3rd last season. They made it to MLS Cup. They are in 2nd right now. They could drop to, technically they could drop to 4th, but I don't think that's happening as they have game in hand. They will finish somewhere 2nd and 3rd based on the Sounders. But we look at the positioning. It would be great. I don't think they're going to get first. I just don't think they're going to win both these games. But I'll be happy to be wrong. And far it be from me. I would like LAFC to avoid that 2-3 spot because it would mean the Sounders, if you get first, you get a Real Salt Lake team or someone else, I think, that are struggling. But the 2-3, you'll be attached to Seattle. And I'd rather admit the Galaxy have that because that'll be tricky. But they're in where they needed. You're not sweating 5th through 8th, which was a realistic situation a couple of weeks ago. Home field advantage, another good accomplishment for this club.
Yeah, agreed. I mentioned it last week. I just don't think they're going to get that first seed. I just see Galaxy at worst drawing, and then obviously process of elimination, then you just can't qualify for it. But it doesn't matter. Even if they win both games, the fact that they're going into the playoffs with confidence, I think it's a good thing. They don't care about first or second. They've had no issue, maybe the first few games of the season, but from that point on, the rest of the season, they've had no issue going on the road and getting results, not just against poor teams, but against some very strong, dominant teams, usually at home. And they've gone in there recently, Cincinnati. Like, you're going in there, you rotated the lineup, and you go there and beat them at their place. It's been impressive, some of these road wins. So I don't think they're worried about too much. Obviously, they want to play at home. You always want to play at home in front of your crowd, in front of an amazing 32-52. But they're okay for 1 game. Okay, let's go. If it is the Galaxy, if they do go that far and you're in the Western Conference Finals, okay, let's just go to the Galaxy, beat them at their place, and then we're off to the finals. And then it could be at LA again, right? It depends on whoever's coming out of the East. So I don't think they're worried about the 2nd seed at all. It's very good. I always said top 4. They need to get top 4.
There you go, flashing the 4 horsemen again. I like it. Woo! So I agree with you, and I think if you ask Steve, he's like, whatever. We'll take care of business. We've proven we can win away. We've proven we can beat the 2 teams that we're competing with for the best record, which is the Galaxy. they've beaten twice, and the Sounders. That's a little bit of a concern because they've beaten the Sounders so many times this year in 3 different competitions. I'm like, is that sustainable against a team that good? Maybe. But wait, let me ask you that, because we'll ask this if it comes around. Would you rather be in LAFC shoes where you've beaten this team, 3-4 times, heading into, if there's a hypothetical playoff? Would you rather be LAFC, or do you feel like Seattle have to say, they can't do this again? The ball's going to bounce our way.
It's weird. I'll refer to a moment with LAFC when we couldn't get over that hump of beating the Galaxy. It was either a loss or a draw every time. It didn't matter if we were winning or we're, tying the entire game. We just couldn't get over that hump. But in 2019, for whatever reason, everybody was like, we want Galaxy. We want them. And sure enough, we knocked them out. So I don't know what side they're going at. Like, hey, we keep losing that team. We don't want to play them, or you know what? We want to face them. We want a chance, a rebuttal. But there's also been moments where you're on the opposite end, where you just keep beating a team. And I've been on this before, and I'm like, can we do it again? Can we, surely the odds has to flip, right? We can't beat them 4 times in a row, 5 times in a row, can we? But it's just some teams, it just happens like that. So I don't know what these guys are thinking right now, if they're thinking like that, but that was just a little glimpse of what we were thinking in 2019 with the Galaxy. Well, at that point, we hadn't beaten them, and we're like, you know what? We want these. We want these suckers, and we want to take them down.
Well, that's the wrong answer, Beta. Now you flipped it. So, we'll see what happens. That is we'll pick up that conversation another day. Yeah. This is unfortunately an international break. There's only a couple games this weekend, and one of them is LAFC at Vancouver, which is a makeup date because of the League's Cup. That's the way it goes when you're successful. LAFC, again, a victim of their own success. I'm sure they would love to recharge the batteries, but unfortunately, the big issue here is you lose players. It's 3 players. They lost 6 players in the last international break in September, so they have at least a bigger roster to handle this. Denny Bouanga will be off with Gabon. I still believe it's African Cup of Nations, although they have World Cup qualifiers. Maxime Chanot, I think, is Nations League with Luxembourg, and Kike Oliveira was World Cup qualifying for Uruguay. 3 big talents. I would say Oliveira scored against Sporting. He's looked pretty good on that right wing. What were your thoughts about how they've been using him? Because these formations have been an adjustment to play to your strengths. And I think what they've seen the last 2 with the wing backs, and one of them, I don't know if it's a wing back, more of a wing, but yeah, Oliveira being productive in that position.
Yeah, I think when you have the talent that he has, you're going to shine unless you go put him in the back line. I think you're going to shine no matter what. Let him attack. Let him use that speed, that pace, that 1v1 ability. And again, that's actually one of the only players I was kind of worried about going on international break, because he kind of just returned from injury. It wasn't a long injury, but something was bothering him. I would like it if he just stayed, let his body fully recover, because now that he's had a few games under his belt again. But also, look, those are big games for him with Uruguay. Like, you want him to go and do well, but it's always, this is, for me, when I was a player, this was always the toughest moment that I looked at the coaching staff and the front office. And I'm like, what do you do? Do you let your guys go to these national teams during the break? Obviously, you want them to do well, and it's a good representation of the club, but it's almost playoff time now. I almost wish they could be like, you guys are going to stay with us. It's only, 4 or 5 weeks left of the season. But some nations, they take it personally when you do that. They don't call them back. So you don't want to burn bridges. But I always, as a player, I always felt like this is the awkward time, so close to playoffs and you're getting called away. But it is what it is. Nothing to do about it.
That could be more an MLS issue. You can't ask for a player to stay for a World Cup qualifier. And Oliveira is not a fringe player. He plays for Uruguay.
Yeah.
Bouanga plays for Gabon. Chanot starts for Luxembourg. But Oliveira, this is World Cup qualifying. And Uruguay are close. So this is a big spot. And you want them to be happy, and they're happy, obviously, with international duty. The 3 players allows you to have some options. No Matty Bogusz for Poland, so he is going to be available. So the issue in September is they lost all their wingers. No word on Carlos Vela, but we'll have probably some more details here at some point. but they should be able to manage a decent 11. When they remember in September, they went with Kai and Olivier as those two forwards. That could be an option. But the fact is just the three important players that it could be, they should be able to field a solid 11 on this final away game in British Columbia.
Yeah, Steve Trundle will still have he'll still have a difficult time picking which 11 are going to start, because he does still have a lot of good options, which is a good problem to have. We've talked about it in the past. We're going to continue to talk about it. John Thornton's done a heck of a job bringing all these quality players in, and that's all you can ask for as a coach. Like, you know what? If someone's down or someone's away for national team duty, I want someone equally as good, and that's what he's got right now. So it'll be a very good lineup that goes out at Vancouver. But we mentioned earlier, Vancouver's struggling a bit. So see what kind of performance you get from them, because they kind of need a win. It's more do or die for them than for LAFC.
Still implementing new players. Lewis O'Brien is completely locked in. He is comfortable. Olivier Giroud still needs more consistency, but he has a gem or two every game that gives you confidence. And he's playing all the time, which is great. Now with Marlon Santos, who again will be joining us here later on Inside LAFC podcast, so stick around for that. These players are relatively embedded. Carlos Vela will wait and see. So here is Vancouver. And this is a team they played 6 times last year. Historically, LAFC have not played well at BC Place. They won year 1 in 2018. Were not able to win 19, 20, 21, 22. 23 Champions Cup playoffs. They went 3 times to Vancouver, won twice and drew 1. So it's not a place where they go where they're going to be intimidated. But everything to play for Vancouver. They're in that 8-9 spot. They have a chance to get out of that play-in game, which every team does not want a part of. Because your season automatically will last 2 more weeks if you can get to 7. So, and that's a tough, you played there. Obviously, Vancouver's lovely and great places to eat. You got Mark Dos Santos, who's got some connections there. But that surface, it's a daunting place for visitors. Why is it that way?
It is a beautiful place. Let's start with that. One of my favorite cities, North America. It's just a gorgeous city. But it is a difficult place to play as far as the stadium goes, the crowd, the environment. As an away opponent, I hated going over there. I just hate turf in general. But then you have the dome. If it's not a beautiful day, they don't open it up. So then it's a dome. You feel like everything's enclosed. It's loud in there. The ball doesn't bounce the same way. But then when I played for the Whitecaps for those 2 years at 14 and 15, I loved it. When teams came to play us, we knew they didn't like it. And we embraced that as a former Whitecaps player. So you had that mental edge already. And so they're going to use that. They've used it in the past. They're going to use that to their advantage. But now if I'm LAFC, I'm like, hey, we came here last year. We had some good results. Let's keep that going. Now that's in the back of their mind, maybe. So it's all mind games to start these games. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, because as you mentioned it, Vancouver, they need this. They want to avoid that play-in game. And so they're going to be coming out. They're going to be fired up. I mentioned earlier the last 5. I think they have 3 losses, 2 draws, if I'm not mistaken. So they're struggling a bit. Let's see how they come out, and if they start fighting for their coach and for the playoffs and for the fans and all that stuff. Because if I'm LAFC, it's not do or die. I think they're pretty content with that 2nd spot in the standings, so it's not do or die for them.
I would have a week ago. I would have chalked this up as probably a loss with a shorthanded LAFC team. They're not as shorthanded as I thought they were going to be, and this Vancouver team, man, they not only struggle, but they've looked bad. They've been busy too. They've had 2 games a week because they were involved in the Canadian Championship, which they won. So they'll go to the, again, they've dominated that tournament. So they will go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup with LAFC. The Galaxy are there. Inter Miami. I can't wait for that next year. It's going to be awesome. After that Canadian Championship, they had a run of 4 straight home games. This one is the 4th. They tied Portland. They got their worst game of the year. They got the doors blown off of them by Seattle, and then they lost to Minnesota. You lose 3 straight games at home. This was supposed to be, we get 7 points. They got 1, and now they get LAFC. I think this team is hanging over the edge. There's a chance for LAFC, if they're confident, push them over. And they've had injuries. They've been shorthanded. Maybe first place is not way out of reach. If they beat Vancouver, Galaxy is going to get nervous, and LAFC have a shot. But it's the Vancouver form, and they'll have a week off, granted. And hopefully they get healthy for their sake. Mm-hmm. But they're not coming into this game in the right shape.
They're not. And the start of this game is going to tell a lot. Whoever starts this game, first 20 minutes, if someone can get a goal, I think, okay, it's over. It's done. Either end. But I think you're right. I think the Whitecaps are going to be a little nervous. Like, 3 home games.
What happens if you lost 3 home games? Would you want to get out of town? Or are you like...
If what? Say that again?
Lost 3 at home. Or if you had a stretch where you did not win 3 straight at home, would you want another home game?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think I want to be on the road just so we don't have to face our fans and how upset and
fans can't be happy.
They can't be happy. I don't know what was going on last game, actually. And I did notice that there weren't a lot of fans there. And I was like, it's not a midweek game. That's weird. I don't know. Maybe they are pretty upset. And they're like, you know what? You guys get your act together. We're not showing up for you. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. Because you talk about earlier in the season, and I actually thought Vancouver was playing beautiful football. They were getting really good results. The players that they had were quality players. They added a couple additions recently, and I thought, okay, now they're going to get even better. But they kind of did the opposite. They've really struggled. So I don't know what's going on over there, to be honest.
I had them as a dark horse to maybe get up in those top 4 spots and make some noise, but they've stunk. They're in the playoffs, but 8-9, which could be Vancouver, Portland, which would be really interesting, is there. So I'm telling you, a game that I didn't have a lot of confidence with, I have a lot more confidence with now. At the top of that list is LAFC's been playing well. One last order of business, news that broke recently. LAFC 2, they are in their first postseason in MLS Next Pro. They have a pick your opponent. They finished 5th in the West. St. Louis City, who are one of the best teams in Next Pro and have produced a lot of good players, finished 2nd, and they chose LAFC 2. So that is the matchup in 2 weeks. So I don't know. I mean, some young kids are bristling there. Some guys from the senior team, they'll have made it down. That's going to be a tough one for LAFC too, but it's great they're in the postseason. This is a proof of concept that the Next Pro team is doing better. We shall see. And we're a big fan of Next Pro. They produce some. You look at some clubs around, including LAFC. It's really helped a lot of clubs build out their rosters, and in many cases, get a guy that can contribute.
Yeah, I think the academy system, MLS Next Pro, the whole system up until the first team, I think they've done a really good job of funneling players up and down, whether they're struggling a little bit, move them down a little bit, get their confidence up, or if they're just excelling, okay, bring them up a level. And then if they're at the 2s, okay, bring them up to the first team. I think LAFC specifically has done a really good job of playing the younger players and developing their kids with LAFC 2. Rather than keeping him in the under 16s or the under 18s with the academy team. So they've done a good job and they're rewarded now. They're in the playoffs. They're in the 5th spot against St. Louis. And I kind of like this concept about picking your opponent. Like, oh, you want us? Huh? You want us? I like it. It's for both ends. Like, that we think that team sucks. We're going to take them. And if I'm that team that got picked, I'm like, all right.
Fired up.
Yeah, we're fired up. We're fired up. So I do like it. Well, I will say if San Jose takes care of Houston and LAFC takes care of St. Louis, not the following round, but the round after that, they can meet up in, I believe, in that bracket. It's not West or East. In that bracket. Is it? No, it is West and East.
It's so West.
They can meet on the West Conference Final. So I don't know where that would be. That would probably be in San Jose. So then
it would be, or Moraga, which is close, right?
Is it? Okay. Yeah. So then I gotta see you guys, hopefully.
All right. Well, if that happens, Beta, I will join you.
Perfect.
Permitting, I will make the road trip, pack the family, and I'll just go by myself. Maybe I'll take some supporters.
We'll get some Persian food up here. Come on.
Dude, you already had me. I'm in. Good stuff, Beta.
You don't need anything else. You're coming. Come on.
I'm so hungry right now, too. I will take you up on that right now if you had something to offer. But good stuff. I think we're going to have another feel-good show next week.
Yeah, I agree. Keep it rolling. Good times rolling.
Steve Beitashour joining, as always, here on Inside LAFC podcast. When we return, new LAFC defender Marlon Santos will join the show, tell you a little bit about his story and his first days with the Black and Gold. Inside LAFC podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance, driving savings. We're back here on Inside LAFC. I always enjoy these programs where we get to know the new players. We always have new players, and then they become part of the LAFC family. So really thrilled to welcome Marlon. ¿Han dicho tu nombre correctamente? Marlon.
Marlon, perfecto.
Marlon. You are from Rio. You're a carioca. Eres carioca, correcto?
Yeah, correcto. Sí, soy carioca.
So I was going to ask him about, he's from Rio, growing up in Brazil, and what's it like to have ambition to be a football player? Creciendo en Rio y en Brasil. Tanto gente quiere jugar fútbol. ¿Cómo es creciendo en ese clima y buscando una carrera en fútbol?
Es bueno porque ahí todos quieren jugar a fútbol, entonces ya empieza desde niño, ¿no? Jugando en las calles, ahí donde tiene espacio y balón, tú ya inicia a jugar, empieza a jugar. Entonces, es claro que la competitividad es muy alta, pero ya cuando empiezas a jugar, te divierte.
Well, he was saying, of course, it's difficult because there's so many people playing, but it's actually a very good thing because football is everywhere. You start as a kid, you play the game where you find space in a street or where have you, but as you grow up, it becomes very comfortable. And we want to mention Marlon's Spanish is good because he did spend some time playing in Spain. So mi portugués, gracias a Dios que te habla español.
Sí, no, pero tra poco también voy a estar hablando inglés, así será mejor.
He said in a short time I'll be speaking English as well, so we'll look forward to that. So we're going to, again, this is an interview to get to know Marlon, and we're going to try and go in chronological order. So in Rio, the big clubs, Flamengo, Fluminense. You joined the Fluminense Academy as a kid. Why was that your choice, and what was it like being with that club? Cuando era joven, los dos grandes en Brasil, Fluminense y Flamengo. ¿Por qué fue a la academia de Fluminense? ¿Por qué es ese club correcto para ti?
Fue el club que me cogió cuando yo era niño, entonces yo crecí ahí y hizo toda la mi formación en el club de Fluminense y después, obviamente, crea la identidad, ¿no? Con el club y ya después tú coges en tu sangre el DNA del club. Entonces, no es solo el club correcto, como también es el club que era como mi casa, mi familia, donde yo iba y estaba siempre ahí acogido por todos, que la gente te abrazaba. Entonces, era una familia. Es una familia.
Fluminense era una familia.
Sí,
y eso es tu club hoy en día. Cuando está apoyando fútbol brasileño, Fluminense es tu club.
Sí. Yo soy un aficionado de Fluminense también.
Okay. So, by the way, Fluminense, if you've seen their jerseys, they are fantastic, and they are the reigning Copa Libertadores champions. But I asked him about why that was the club, but he said they found me as a kid, but then you start to form into that club, and then in a little bit of time, it's in your blood. And then your family is on board, and then your neighbors, and then it's you become friends with everyone within the club, and it becomes family. You're part of the Fluminense family. Now this is after a successful run in Brazil. You began your move, and in 2016, not many people look. He understands my English. Look.
Yes. So I understand. Good for me. I like this. Giving me a big experience. So
Great.
I'm happy.
And Marlon, vamos a hacer esto en un año y totalmente en inglés.
No, 4 meses.
4 months. He says we'll do this in 4 months in
yeah.
English. Deal. You got a deal. So in 2016, you signed with Barcelona. The Barcelona, not Barcelona. So That had to be amazing. ¿Cómo fue cuando recibiste la noticia que vas a firmar con Barcelona, uno de los grandes clubes en el mundo?
Es una sorpresa, pero también sabiendo que tú trabajas para buscar siempre lo mejor, ¿no? Entonces, cuando tú trabajas y sabes que estás dando tu mejor, las cosas creo que vengan a suceder de una manera normal. Y cuando me llamaste del Barcelona, yo no me pensé, yo solo he dicho a mi padre, mira, tenemos que ir porque es la oportunidad de realizar un sueño de un niño, es una cosa que tú mirabas al Ronaldinho jugando, has visto vídeos de Romario o Ronaldo y ya después miraba los partidos de Messi ahí, Neymar también. Después cuando te llama el Barcelona y tú no te piensas, tú dices, vamos, y fue una sorpresa y me quedé muy contento, obviamente.
First of all, he said it was a surprise when he got the news, and he wasn't sure if it was the right move. But then he sat with his father, and his dad said that if you get the chance like this, you've got to pursue it. And he said, obviously, for a Brazilian, it's very it's a huge honor. Mentioning players like that played for Barcelona, like Ronaldinho, Romario, Ronaldo, Messi, not a Brazilian, but that's still a big one, and Neymar. So it was a surprise, but it was an honor certainly to be able to do that. There are some Barcelona players at LAFC, Sergi and Ilie Sanchez. Obviously, that's a brotherhood when you're part of that club. Did they reach out? Is there a relationship you have with them? El Barcelona es una fraternidad. Cuando juega para el club es para siempre. Y en el LAFC tenemos dos jugadores, en Sergi y Ilie Sánchez, que son parte de ese grupo. ¿Ellos han recibido a ti en el club, hablado sobre ese tiempo en Barcelona?
Sí, hemos hablado un poco, pero es que como estuvimos juntos ahí, principalmente con Sergi, ya nos conocíamos, hemos jugado juntos, entonces fue una sorpresa ya cuando nos hemos encontrado aquí y hemos quedado muy contentos de estar juntos otra vez. Y sí, hablamos un poco de Barcelona, ya también del club de LAFC. Y me explicó mucho el sistema de juego, y también me ayudaste mucho, entonces sí que el relacionamiento ahí está empezando a ser un poco más vivo. Sí.
Yes, he did say that, and in fact, he played with Sergi when he was with Barcelona, so it was great to have a familiar face when he arrived here. We were all very happy. Sergi was happy, and then Sergi and Ilie Sanchez spent some time with him explaining how LAFC plays, so that obviously helped him with his transition. So you've had an amazing football adventure. I look at where you've been, and this is very rare that a player gets to do what you have done, and now that continues here in the United States. You played in France, in Italy, in Ukraine. Is there a favorite place that you've experienced in this journey? Han tenido una aventura increíble en tu carrera de fútbol. Han jugado en Francia, Italia, Ucrania, España, ahora en los Estados Unidos. ¿Tiene un estadio, una experiencia, un memoria favorito en toda tu historia de futbolero?
Por supuesto, el estadio, por ejemplo, el Camp Nou, sin duda del Camp Nou. Claro que tiene el Maracanã también, que significa mucho para mí, porque fue el donde debuté como profesional, pero el Camp Nou para mí fue el máximo. Y claro, ganar también un campeonato en mi país con el equipo que me formaste en el año pasado es que se queda también muy, muy importante para mí. Entonces creo que cojo ahí la ciudad de Barcelona y la experiencia que tuvo año pasado con el Fluminense, que fue el equipo que me formó. Y hemos logrado ganar un campeonato en nuestro estadio, que fue el Maracanã.
¿Era parte de ese campeonato?
Sí, 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 sí.
Yo no sabía.
Sí.
Well, I asked him what those great memories were, and then Camp Nou in Brazil. Se dice Camp Nou.
Camp Nou, yes.
Yeah, says the Camp Nou. We love the Brazilian language. It's beautiful and it's original. So he was saying, obviously, playing at the Camp Nou in Barcelona, it was a highlight. making your debut at the Maracanã, which is the famous stadium there in Rio de Janeiro, where Fluminense play. And this is where I caught myself. Fluminense won the Copa Libertadores, and Marlon was part of that. And I must have missed that in my preparation. Disculpa.
Todo bien, no pasa nada.
That's amazing. But this guy, I mean, when you look at what Marlon has done, it truly is amazing. Al fin jugaba en Ucrania. Hoy en día es un tiempo muy difícil, con una guerra que sigue en ese país. ¿Cómo se fue su salida de ese club? Y la cosa difícil que necesita hacer para cambiar tu club. Playing in Ukraine recently, obviously, it's very difficult as wartime has broken out. Players have to leave, including Marlon. I asked him, I should have said this in English first, about leaving that club and how were the challenges of finding a new club and leaving a war-torn country.
Fue muy triste, de verdad, dejar el Shakhtar como fue, porque ellos son personas que muy afectuosas, que te abrazan siempre, que te ayudan en el día a día, y ya cuando estás dentro ahí, envolvido con ellos, tú percibes el cariño que tiene con los demás. Pero la manera, el modo que salimos de ahí, que sucedió toda la guerra, fue triste. Pero tengo compañeros todavía que están ahí, algunos volvieron también para el Shakhtar, y es claro que fue muy triste todo este episodio, pero deseo suerte y que Dios pueda ayudar a ellos ahí en este momento. Y bueno, para mí es siempre triste cuando se trata de ese tema, porque viví 4 días de guerra y después salí como salimos, ya casi 1 día y medio para salir del país, 4 días en el búnker, y entonces fue muy duro.
Wow. Well, he was with Shakhtar Donetsk, which is a Ukrainian powerhouse. He said it was very sad because the people there were great. They help you. They put their arm around you. They give you a lot of love. So it was just very sad. I still have friends and teammates that are there and who had to leave, and we separated. So I want them to give them the best of luck. I hope God can help them, but it was a very difficult time. It took him 1.5 days to leave, and he said 4 days spent in a bunker. So, I mean, a very scary situation that Marlon had to endure. And this was all very recently. And we give our best to everyone in the Ukraine as well, and hope that that is resolved, that we can get back to normal football. So a couple more questions. Describe yourself as a defender. Describe yourself as a player. What are the things you do well and you bring to your new club? Describe usted como jugador, qué hace como defensor central, y qué son las cosas que van a ayudar LAFC.
Yo soy un hombre muy compañero, ¿no? Y un jugador que también que soy de ayudar en lo que puedo y me esforzar el máximo para ayudar a mis compañeros. Por supuesto, siempre superando mis límites para que pueda ayudar al team. Entonces, si yo soy un defensor que intento ahí de ayudar, ser generoso, solidario, construir juntos el juego, defender juntos. Bueno, este es el Marlon.
Wow, another great answer. He says, I'm a good companion. I'm a good teammate. I'm here to help where the team needs me. Of course, I stay within my limits. I don't do stuff that I'm not comfortable with. It's all about helping the team, to be solidario, to create a good defensive setup. And final question, Marlon. This has been amazing. We should do this again in 4 months in English. How did you end up at LAFC? How did you get the call and you knew you were going to move here to this club? ¿Cómo llegaste a LAFC? ¿Y por qué esto fue algo que quería hacer en tu carrera?
Entonces, elegí aquí porque sabía del equipo que tenía, sabía también del entrenador que tenía, entonces encajaba perfectamente en mi estilo de juego, y era un desafío a más, ¿no? En la minha carrera, un continente nuevo donde nunca estuviste, entonces para mí, por el desafío, me vino el sangre en los ojos para estar junto con el equipo y conquistando y superando nosotros mismos para que podamos llegar en más alto posible de un modo humilde, pero con mucho trabajo. Entonces, fue por esto que elegí el LAFC.
Y inmediatamente han ganado un trofeo.
Sí, pero mis compañeros ahí, solo tengo que agradecer a ellos porque yo bromeando con ellos he dicho que si no fuera ellos, yo no tenía ganado junto con ellos. Entonces, y después también el entrenador me dio el regalo de ponerme en el partido, entonces fue muy especial para mí. Y agradezco a mi compañero y mi entrenador y todo el staff.
So I asked him to follow up. I go, you got here and then you immediately won a trophy at the US Open Cup. And he said, yeah, those are my teammates, but I appreciate the coach giving me some minutes so that I could be part of it. But it was a wonderful thing to be part of. With regards to coming to LAFC, it was about good timing, leaving his last cup, and they fit perfectly. Timing was. I always wanted to take on a new challenge in a new continent, never been here before, and look forward to doing something. And he said one expression, coming here with blood in my eyes, which is very good. Have you been enjoying Los Angeles? ¿Han disfrutado Los Angeles? ¿Hay algo que quieres hacer? Is there something you want to do soon here in LA?
Sí, sí, por supuesto, pero estoy más concentrado en jugar a fútbol y disfrutar con mi familia y mis niños. Claro que es una ciudad como Río de Janeiro, que tiene playa, que tiene montaña, que tiene de todo, pero aparte aquí también es algo donde se tiene de todo, ¿no? Las películas, entonces es una ciudad única. Pero yo y mi familia estamos muy concentrados en el trabajo y queremos lograr todo que possamos aquí y ya iremos mirar lo que irá a suceder. Pero mi cabeza está en el trabajo completamente.
¿Y tu familia está aquí contigo?
Sí, tengo 3 hijos y mi mujer, sí.
So I asked him, is your family here with? Yes, he's with his wife, and he has 3 children as well. He's here to play football, first and foremost, but he did mention that there's some familiarities with being from Rio, with the beach and the mountains. If you've ever seen Rio, it's the mountains on top of the beach. It's insane. So LA has that too. But it is a unique city with the entertainment and other things that it provides. That's very exciting. First and foremost, I'm here to play football. Marlon.
Yes.
Fantastic interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good luck, and we look forward to seeing you play and maybe another trophy in a couple months.
Yes, I hope you're working for this. Yes.
Marlon Santos joining us here on Inside LAFC podcast, where we get to know the players. That'll wrap up another episode. We'll be back next week as we're getting close to decision day and a big final home game. We're going to have all the details on that. Until then, for Marlon and Beta, I'm Max. We'll see you next time.